Okay, we're live. Hi, I'm Chris Lethem. This is The Economy and You. Welcome, folks. Today's guest is House Representative Marcos Oshiro. Marcus, thanks for being on the show today.
Happy to be here, Chris.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Good to be here.
Yeah. Hey, so we had a few things to talk about today.
Couple of things, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I know last week we had a little conversation with James Hochberg, and we talked a little bit about the marijuana bill. We talked a little bit about the Safe Places bill and some other stuff, but I think he got your attention when we started talking about the marijuana bill.
Yeah, he mentioned to me that you had a discussion on House Bill 321,
Yes.
which would set up a series of medical marijuana dispensaries where a person with a medical marijuana card can go and buy their marijuana product, marijuana edible, marijuana lotion, marijuana tincture, assortment of marijuana.
So we're gonna have like marijuana soap and just anything anybody can come up with that can have a little
just about everything you
THC
think
packed
about
in.
Yeah, it's more than pills, capsules, and lotions and tinctures.
Yeah, yeah.
Besides the marijuana, you can smoke it. You can also go and drink it and put it on your skin.
Yeah. Well, and then they have the e-cigarettes, right?
Yeah, you're gonna be able to buy some pretty high grade, potent marijuana infused oil or derivatives of marijuana, 80 to 90% THC by volume, very potent.
That sounds
powerful
pretty,
stuff. Yeah, you can go and buy that there and then use it, use an e-cigarette to go and ingest it.
Well, if you're somebody and that's already part of your sort of your lifestyle, that sounds like a pretty good deal.
I think it is to be able to access that. I don't know what the price is going to be, but if you look at the RAND studies and the RAND reports tell you that the price of marijuana will go down dramatically once you legalize it. So there's going to be maybe good product out there at a low cost.
Well, I think this is very interesting because and I was telling you earlier before the show, my family were very involved in substance abuse prevention education. We worked with the Honolulu Police Department for about 10 years, trying to edify the community about the problems with substance abuse. Now, marijuana has sort of, I don't know if it's been declassified from a Class A narcotic. I'm not sure what the classification has been changed.
It's still a Schedule 1 drug listed along with heroin, crystal methamphetamine under the federal law.
Right. Now lots of states have been sort of decriminalizing marijuana. 4 states now have it at a recreational level. Is that about right?
That's correct.
Okay. So now we find ourselves in this predicament where the thing that we said we don't want people doing, we're just finally, is this just sort of society throwing up their hands and saying we surrender?
I hope not. I think it may be just a phase we're going through right now until we realize that once you allow the commercialization, capitalization of marijuana, like any other substance out there, whether it's tobacco or alcohol or even certain types of pharmaceuticals or even certain type of fast foods, once you put a profit motive behind the sale and exchange of that particular product in the free market, you're going to have those effects come to be influenced. And you're going to see that here. So whether it's called medicinal marijuana or recreational marijuana, the same effect will occur. And that's going to be to promote more and more sales and have more and more people become repeat customers, otherwise known as addicts.
Well, no. I'm just going to play devil's advocate. Well, won't this bring more tourists to Hawaii?
I don't know if it's going to bring more tourists, but interesting you mentioned that because this bill would allow medical marijuana tourists to start coming here in Hawaii, I think, in January of 2018, no sooner. If you have a registered marijuana card from out of state or Puerto Rico or one of the territories, you can certainly come here and go into one of the stores here and purchase your marijuana product. Okay,
so I got it. Okay, so let me repeat this. So I can take a script from California.
Well, it's not a prescription, it's a certificate.
It's a certificate. Okay,
yeah,
excuse me,
yeah,
it's a certificate.
Yeah.
So I take the certificate and I come to Hawaii with certificate in hand, and I can walk in and get some marijuana.
Yes, you can purchase some marijuana. It's probably not going to be the amount that a local person resident can get, which is up to 4 ounces. But you can probably buy a few doobies, maybe a couple of marijuana infused sodas.
But 4 ounces is a lot.
I
When
think
you
it
said
is.
4 ounces, that's a lot of marijuana.
I think it is. An ounce of marijuana, it's about a size like this.
Uh-huh.
You can probably roll maybe 50, 60 joints, depending upon the potency of the marijuana.
Mhm.
So 4 ounces, 200, maybe 240 joints.
That's a
lot
lot.
of marijuana.
Now, what happens when they forget and try to take it back home with them on the
Oh,
airplane?
that's a no-no.
That's a no-no, is it?
You can't do that. Even right now, if you were to go to Colorado right now, Oregon or Washington, and try to bring it back home to Hawaii as omiyage, you'll get in trouble.
Oh,
And if you get to Colorado or you get to Denver, the international airport will tell you, make sure you don't have any marijuana products on the person or in your baggage, carry-on or checked in,
oh,
because they're sniffing. They have dogs up there.
yes.
You see,
Well, and if you've been using it, now here's the thing. If you've been smoking marijuana and you have that residue on your clothes, isn't that going to trigger an alert by the dogs?
that might trigger an alert by the dogs,
Yeah.
That might happen,
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, marijuana does stay in your system for a period of time, maybe 30, 40 days, so.
Right.
If you have to go back home, go back to work, or,
And then you got to go take a test?
yeah, you better think about it.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. So this has lots of unintended consequences.
Well, yeah, my concern is not so much with adults using it, because I think, once you're an adult, you can make those decisions. But my concern is the diversion to young people.
Mhm.
The adolescent mind between the ages of 12 and, let's say, 23, 24 is developing.
Yes.
I mean, that's what they tell you.
Well, we actually know today that the human brain doesn't actually the development goes on up to like 23, 24 years of age.
Right, they say 25, 20, 26, until the whole frontal lobe is developed for decision-making, for rational, logical decision-making. Prior to that, it's still in that stage of moving around and change is going on. And that phase of the young adolescent, which is the most prime time for them to be learning,
Right.
because their brains are firing off and they're making adjustments here and there, it's also the same time for them to learn bad things, and that's where addiction comes in. The same process in the brain that causes addiction is the same process that causes good learning of sports, athletics, music, chemistry, science, technology. Those same kinds of features going on in the adolescent brain also leads to the same,
Because the brain is still malleable at that point.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And the science and the evidence out there says that for a constant user, which is maybe once a week, there may be a 6-time chance of them becoming addicted. They say that 1 in 6 adolescents will become addicted.
Okay.
It's 1 in 10 or 1 in 11 for an adult.
And is this the same for people who abuse alcohol or other substances?
I'm not sure, but just on marijuana
Okay.
itself.
Because we know alcohol. I mean, the history of alcohol is we know that people use alcohol chronically, they become addicted.
Well, yeah. If you and I could go back and reset the whole world's clock, I think we'll make some different decisions regarding the legalization, commercialization of alcohol. We'll do the same thing with tobacco. I think I think we'll think about it in a different light. But that discussion has already gone before us.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, that's part and parcel of a society, good, bad, or ugly. It's out there right now. We learned that tobacco is we're celebrating 50 years today of the Surgeon General finally saying tobacco is bad, and the science shows that.
Yes.
50 years today now.
That's right.
We haven't gotten there in marijuana. We're still allowing this grand experiment to proceed. And it's scary, because we might find out 10, 15, 20 years down the road, the Surgeon General will say, sorry, we made a mistake back in the 2000s. We thought it was okay. We thought it was safe. We thought it was benign. We made a mistake.
So here's the tough part of this, is we have in this country an insatiable demand to consume marijuana. I mean, we have gangs in Mexico, in Central America, that are making tens of millions of dollars. We have gangs that are killing each other, that are just, they're beheading each other, they're shooting each other. The crimes are just abhorrent over our insatiable desire to use drugs in this country. Are we, by legalizing marijuana, are we reducing our culpability? Are we making it, and by bringing down the price, are we going to, is a byproduct of that maybe reducing the gang violence that's going on?
Okay, first of all, 2 things need to be established. When you have legalization of marijuana, you do not eradicate the black market.
Okay.
You do not eliminate cartels. You do not get illegal involvement, dirty money out of the system. It's still there.
Okay.
It just gets disguised. It just gets covered up. Marijuana is so ubiquitous, as far as a product, this bud and that bud,
Mm-hmm.
this element and that element. It's just disguised. You're not going to get rid of it. Colorado still has cartel money, still has gang money floating around there.
Okay.
Same with these other states, they don't go away. Number two, wherever you have legalized marijuana, you have a higher rate of exposure and use among adolescents.
Right.
That's fact. So the question I have right now, are we willing to do that? Are we willing to risk an entire generation of young people to that effect when we see what has gone on in other states? And Chris, I always tell people this. I said, you have 23 states that have legalized marijuana. 4 of them are recreational. That's Colorado, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no distinction between medical or recreational. So the other 19 states, of the 19 states, the average experience of open dispensaries, operating dispensaries, monitoring the effect of dispensaries is only 2 years. 24 months of data. So as a political scientist, as a sociologist, as one interested in public health, one needs to say, is 24 months enough data for us to know what's going on out there? The good and the bad.
Right, right.
Is that enough? I don't think that's sufficient for us to make this policy, because once we open this door, opens Pandora's box.
Yeah.
There's no going back, because the money interests in this endeavor are going to make sure that we never go back. And they're going to use whatever leverage they have to expand themselves, both in the business and political communities.
Well, what we know is that, money talks in the world of politics, whether it's direct or indirect.
And that's true.
Yes.
And that's true. So we've seen it happen with tobacco and with alcohol. Anytime you want to raise a tobacco tax, you want to put further restrictions, enforcement, you want to do this stuff about getting it off the front door.
Yeah.
There's all this resistance.
All of a sudden there's lobbying groups that get formulated, and then there's money behind it,
God.
and then they're down there pounding on the doors. At the you've been down to the legislature here, even though we're not at the federal level, and we're at the state level, there are people continually knocking on your door at the legislature.
I've seen it. I mean, I've seen it. So, it's really interesting. So I hope we take a note from our experience regulating tobacco, regulating alcohol, and understand that we can't do a good job, and we haven't been doing a good job keeping tobacco and alcohol out of the hands of minors.
And it's a fierce battle. It is like, you send all your troops to the front of the line, but we are always out there vigilant, having to check every store, every bar, making sure that they're not serving to minors, and yet it still happens.
It's part of the business. It's part of the cost of doing business in town. And the sanctions that I see so far are just, no less than $100, no more than $1,000 for violating unlawful distribution, distribution to minor, unlawful accounting, exposure to the public. Slap on the wrist. Big deal. $1,000 in a multi-million-dollar industry.
It just seems, it seems like we're putting ourselves in a place where we're going to be doing another battle, having an ongoing battle.
One of the things I suggested was, you got 13,000 people out there. According to the data of public safety, you have 318 who cannot grow or have a friend grow it for them. Who cannot grow, or cannot have
318 out of how many?
13,000.
So 13,000 people who are getting prescriptions for marijuana. Am I saying that right?
No, you're getting recommendations, certificates for marijuana use.
Okay, recommendation. Okay, that's how you term that. Okay.
Yeah. So 97% of those with medical marijuana cards today can grow their own, 7 plants, 4 ounces, will have someone grow it for them. 97% of them. Just 318 out of 13,000 cannot grow their own or have a friend. 221 of them live on Oahu.
Wait a minute, you're saying they,
12,
what do you mean?
12
Okay.
live on Hawaii Island.
Okay.
Okay, I know this. 6 on Kauai, 1 on Molokai. Okay, okay.
And they can't find somebody to help them.
Right, yeah. You got 5,000 cards on the Big Island. You got about 2,000 cards on Oahu, 2,000 cards, 3,000 cards on Oahu, 3,000 cards on Maui, 2,000 cards on Kauai. And those are the numbers.
Those are the numbers.
12 on the Big Island, 221 on Oahu.
But what you're saying is they
78 on Maui.
They cannot find somebody to help them grow their marijuana?
Yes. And I said, why don't we work on helping them hook up with someone who knows what they're doing?
I guarantee you, if you post to Craigslist, you will find a friend.
I know they are. If you look at some of the online free media out there,
yes.
you know what I mean, the YouTube videos out there, there's a lot of local experts who are willing to help those legitimately ill people who
Yes.
need it for cancer,
Yes.
for AIDS, for cachexia, okay,
Mhm.
for epileptic seizures, for these really serious, muscular dystrophy.
Mm-hmm.
We just added on post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm asking myself, what's driving this, number one? Number two, why did we go for a for-profit model? There are 8 states out there, including Massachusetts,
Okay.
Arizona, New Mexico,
Okay.
and New York, says it has to be a not-for-profit business. Why? You want to try and take as much profit out of this enterprise. We
So
go
if
straight,
you do
we
that-
go straight into the capitalist market, and
Okay.
then, buyer beware, and then let it all go. You know what I mean?
So, but that's what, with our legislation, this is not a not-for-profit model. This is a for-profit model that we're putting forth.
That's correct.
Okay. So now.
You need $1 million just to go and put in an application, my friend.
Okay, well,
So
anybody
I
out
don't
there
know
that's
what
got $1
local
million.
farmer, I don't know what local farmer out there, mom and pop guy out there, organic guy on a big island on Maui or North Shore got the resources to put up $1 million and then put in a $5,000 application fee.
So I think I know who has $1 million. It's the tobacco company. It's other large institutions that are already out there. They've got the money. Are we not just creating funding for those organizations?
That's part
Creating an opportunity for them,
Yeah,
because
that's-
they've got the capitalization to accomplish that.
That's what I've been suggesting and hinting to people.
So now, but there was also a deadline date when you had to have the $1 million in the bank.
When I look at the law and the way it's drafted right now, if you didn't have $1 million in your bank account somewhere in the world by January 28, 2015, this year, you're not eligible.
You're not eligible. Okay,
Not
now
eligible.
does that have to be in Hawaii, or can that be outside of Hawaii?
It can be outside because it's not limited to Hawaii. You have to be a 5-year resident. So if you weren't here earlier than 2010, you're not a 5-year resident, so you can't participate. You're not eligible. Both your business and individual human being person to apply.
Okay. Well, we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, let's talk a little bit maybe on what we do need to be working on legislatively to strengthen families and talk about what we can be doing to curb the demand for marijuana use.
Sure.
I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. We'll be right back.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidel and the Think Tech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we'd love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Hi, I'm your host on Think Tech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, Think Tech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Wow, that was fast. Why? I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. Welcome back. Today's guest is Marcus Oshiro from the House of Representatives. Marcus, this is an interesting discussion because, the whole thing with marijuana use has been, it's a fairly excitable issue. There are people who are very supportive and people who are very much against it. And, I try to look at the difference between advocacy and the science. From a science perspective, there are people who benefit from the use of marijuana, but at the same time, we don't want our kids using it because it has a negative impact on their ability to focus, their ability to do well in school. We know that, and most of us have seen it firsthand if you've got anybody in our family that's smoking marijuana, it really impacts their motivation and drive to be successful in their life. Some people talk about it being better than alcohol because they say, well, alcohol makes people, they get mean and stupid, and then if people smoke dope, well, they're smoking marijuana, they're all relaxed, they're friendly, and all this stuff. But ultimately, I think the argument whether it's better or worse than alcohol is a bit of a fallacious argument. I think it's important to understand that there are negative consequences to smoking marijuana, especially for young people.
Yeah, they are. You know, there's the obvious effects on your brain. There's also effects on your lungs, on your heart. I mean, there are young folks out there who are going to cardiac seizures because of the effects of smoking marijuana. This is the marijuana not of the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. This is the marijuana of today. The THC level, 25, 30%. The stuff that I smoked back in the 70s, 2 to 4% THC.
So you had to put like a bag over your head to smoke it to get high, and you're nowhere sure
No,
if you were getting higher, just getting higher from the asphyxiation.
Yeah, like the president, right? All the windows. You know what I mean? Inhale deeply, right?
Yes.
No, the marijuana today is 25 to 30% THC. They're getting a higher level of THC. They're taking down the non-psychoactive component, the CBD.
Okay.
And that's the goal. That's the goal of the marijuana production today. The higher level of THC, the higher, most psycho. As I said, it's like apples and oranges. Like comparing a glass of beer with a glass of bourbon. You know what I mean? They both have alcohol in them, right? But one's a little bit more powerful.
One's a little more powerful, yeah. And the thing is, when you have that kind of introduction of THC into your system, what do we know about the long-term effects?
Well, we know right now that for young people, it can lead to permanent damage, psychosis, schizophrenia, loss of ambition, loss of memory retention, loss of cognitive functions, and some of this is permanent. You can actually have up to an 8-point loss of IQ, and that's permanent damage.
And here's the thing. I mean, I was making a joke with you earlier. I talked about the number one crop in Hawaii today is homelessness. But I say that because I'm driving over to the studio today. As I'm driving over here, I'm going past Koala Basin, and I'm seeing a homeless person staggering. Literally, she was staggering toward a trash can to throw away one of these fold-up mats and a cardboard box. She got the mat in, but she couldn't. She wasn't able to even fold up the cardboard box. She didn't have the capacity, because she was completely high on something, to put it into the trash can, and she was bouncing all over the place. And I'm watching that, and I'm thinking to myself, not only do I feel sad for her, but I'm like, if you're a tourist and you're coming to Hawaii, and you've saved up your money your whole life to come here, and you're witnessing this, are we really, we're really impacting our own future.
Chris, that's absolutely right. There was no discussion from the Hawaii Tourism Authority, Waikiki Improvement Association, the travel beverage industries. None of those folks weighed in on it, but they're going to be affected by it greatly.
Yes.
Especially Asian visitors. They have a zero tolerance for drugs in their society.
That's right.
So when the Chinese come here, the South Koreans come here, the Japanese come here, and they see someone acting a little bit strange and funny because they're under the influence, I don't think they're going to appreciate that with the housekeepers or people working in the hotel, at the front desk, the bellhops, or providing services. I don't think they're going to take kindly to that. And when they start smelling it and seeing it exposed to their kids and other family members, I don't think they're going to take kindly to that.
And what would they say? I mean, in my thoughts, if you're coming here and you've never been exposed to that, or if you're from someplace like Singapore, where it's absolutely not tolerated. In fact, I think their policies hang all the users. You just don't see it. And when you don't want to bring your kids to a place where you would expose them to that kind of behavior.
So we haven't had that discussion. That discussion needs to be had. We also haven't had a discussion what's going to happen in our construction industry. A lot of our students will not go on to a four-year college. Will not not going to technology or engineering.
Yes.
Or run the professional industries. But they have the ability and skill sets to be good journeymen, to be good carpenters, plumbers, electricians. They will not have the opportunity to even get an apprenticeship position if they test dirty. When I spoke to the folks at the diagnostic lab this year, I said, what's the biggest thing out there being tested? They said, number one is marijuana. And he said, some employers out there have a zero tolerance. So once a person tests dirty for marijuana, they're not going to even be asked to come back.
Right.
They're going to be rejected right at the onset.
And
so I see consequences occurring for younger people who may in their youth experiment, may get addicted because this is a highly potent drug. It's not the same drug we think about as years past.
Okay.
And they will be subject to those kinds of effects and lost opportunities. I can't stomach that with young people.
Well, even think about it from now, okay, so now let's look at it from the other perspective. Let's say you're a guy that wants to build. You want to invest and build something here in Hawaii. Now you're having difficulty finding people with the skill set. It can already be challenging to find people with the skill sets that you need. But now you have to contend with this whole other issue of substance abuse as another layer on top of the complexities that you already have to deal with.
And that's correct. You might not have qualified employees. You might have employees testing positive. And so you add this other layer of complexity, of uncertainty of law, of evolving, devolving law in this area of workplace, safety, standards, federal requirements, zero tolerance, no drug policies in place, and you add this other layer, you add another cost or burden upon business.
Well, there's somebody here who's tweeting. And by the way, if you'd like to tweet us, it's the @Hawaii Tech High. That's our tweet right there, and we'd be happy to acknowledge that. And somebody right now is saying that the violence in Mexico has decreased in certain states, but we don't really have a huge issue with violent, abhorrent behavior in Hawaii as much as other states, do we?
I don't believe so. I think we have a very different type of culture here, very live and let live, accepting culture right now. And because it's so widespread throughout the community, I don't think you have that going on here.
Now, one of the things that I think about, too, is that I know today in our college system, we have 2 girls for every guy in our college system. Young men today are not achieving the academic success that they used to. That concerns me. It concerns me on a lot of levels, because if we have an imbalance of young men who aren't achieving success going on in colleges and getting trained in high technology areas and in the sciences and such, doesn't that also have a potential long-term impact on our society and our ability to be the country in the world, to be sort of the leader in technology and such?
Chris, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't know why we want to disadvantage ourselves. It's not like we have extra abundance of gray matter in our brains. You know what I mean? That we're already overachieving, on a national or international level. I don't think we're there yet. We don't have the luxury of losing any more gray matter.
Well, we're importing. We import people from other countries because we cannot fill our own technology jobs.
So why would you want to risk the future of our young people, our most productive citizens who have the ability? We already know today they're not as well educated as the past generation. We're already knowing that. I mean, it's a hard and bitter pill to swallow.
Yes.
This generation before us right now, the millennial generation, may not be as well educated as the prior generations. So why would we want to impose upon them, another obstacle, another substance out there can be sold on the market, promoted and sold to them for their use. With everything else, we know about the effects of it today.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, we could have gone with a not-for-profit model. Take out some of the profit. We could have gone with a co-op. Let people work together, help out each other,
The people who need...
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, that's a less drastic alternative. Why did we go to a for-profit model right off the bat? And I told you, even, for example, in Washington, D.C., their policy is grow and give. You can grow it. You can also give it to someone who can grow it. But there's no commercialization. There's no retailization of it going on that. You got other states that require not-for-profits. New York State, for example, not-for-profit corporation, limited. I think only 20 dispensaries throughout the entire state. They got 20 million people.
Yeah.
I mean, so they're taking a go slow attitude.
So maybe we need to talk about maybe a compromise solution here instead of saying all or nothing. We're going to go to commercial. We're going to come right back. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what we should be doing instead of not only what we oppose, but where we should be going.
Sure.
Aloha. Thank you. We'll be right back.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we try to get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's why we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today, you've seen this, you heard what she said, what do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes, there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from Think Tank's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Okay, back again. Hi, I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. Our guest today is Marcus Oshiro, and we've gone after the marijuana industry today. We're talking about some of the things, the problems associated with decriminalizing and setting up dispensaries that would be a for-profit opportunity here in Hawaii. And I think what I wanted to do here is our last 12 minutes here is let's talk about some of the kinds of legislation that might help to strengthen families, to sort of create opportunities to I guess, in a way, create a shield that might help to protect families if this were to pass.
Okay.
What do we need to be doing to go forward here?
Chris, that's a good point, because I think this measure is going to be approved by the governor, against my objections, of course. But anyway, so there's a 750-foot barrier between a school, a playground, a park, a public housing unit, and a medical marijuana dispensary or a medical marijuana farm production facility. Okay, but you need more than 750 feet. You need something very close to the family, and I think that's where we need to go and strengthen the families so the families can strengthen their own children under their care.
Yes.
We all need to strengthen the families so that young people feel comfortable in the environment they're growing up in. So they grow up in a place that they have some self-esteem of who they are, regardless of where they're coming from. There's some pride in who they are as an individual, as a human being, regardless of their initial social strata, where their parents are from, where they live, what their zip code might be. We need to encourage and strengthen that sense of confidence and who the individual child is. That's so important. I'm from Waihawa, zip code 96786. You know, when I tell people that I have schools there in Waihawa that are at the highest levels of free or reduced lunch, they say, huh? You guys, Waihawa? Oahu?
Yeah.
Next to Mililani? I said, yeah, it's like 1.8 miles from Mililani. But I said, we have the 5th highest population of school kids.
Okay.
Free or reduced lunch. So I have a lot of families there who are
working poor,
economically challenged.
Yeah.
You know, and they're struggling.
Yes.
And that's reflected in the demographics and the data we have at our schools. So what we need to do, what I'm doing, is to strengthen the families.
Okay.
To do all I can to make sure the families can stay together, can remain together, can function together, and have the opportunity to engage with each other.
That's right. You know, and I think I refer to these young families as brittle family units.
All of them.
They are struggling, a lot of them, whether it's financial, whether it's, a lot of young men grow up today without fathers, have grown up without fathers. They don't necessarily have a clear definition of what that role is like and what that role includes. I've had young men sit down and I've talked to them about, well, how do you manage your money and finance and things? And I've had young men say, I don't even know how to write a check, Chris. I don't know how to do that, let alone set up a budget, let alone have some sort of a file folder system for managing all the papers and the complexities of society today. Because let's face it, it's almost like running a business. Running a family is like running a business sometimes. And setting up structures that sort of help young people sort of work their way through that, Managing a credit score today, what does that look like? How do you do that? If you've got money, and I've got a 401k plan or a profit sharing plan, how do I invest so that I put money into it and I actually have something at the other end when I retire, and I don't just put my money in the safe. You know, one of the sort of things that when I talk to these young people, they'd say, well, I'm just going to put my money in the safest thing I can find. I said, but that's not necessarily going to give you the best or highest return.
Not today. Not today.
And, you know, so and all of these things, these complexities that families have to contend with, you know, can be overwhelming. And so one of the things that I have worked on, of course, as you know, is working to reform family court, to move, you know, where families can't stay together, is having some sort of shared parenting and not forcing people into litigation, and work toward a collaborative model. And with the education system here, engaging parents more and having them be a bigger part of the educational process and in the school system, and being engaged in the education of their own children. This, to me, is how we can help to ensure, you know, and when parents are engaged like that, because parenting, as I said earlier, is a time-intensive activity. If we're working in that mode and passing legislation that doesn't exploit families, where families are having a tough time, and here's an opportunity I can jump in and make money for myself, but figure out ways to solidify the family unit, or at least if it's not going to stay together, move it forward in a way that's supportive and collaborative. Is that? I guess that's what I'm looking.
Yeah.
You know, if we're going to strengthen families, we've got to start moving in that direction.
No, I think you're right. I think just about the time of the incidences of Peter Boykama, who that arose I think it was in the mid-90s.
Right, I remember that.
That's when I sensed the pendulum swinging to the other extreme. You went from one of parental unification, family unification, to child safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we went the other extreme in that instance. So I think we need to maybe bring this pendulum closer to the middle, to maybe readjust it, to focus back on family reunification, family support for the family unit.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that's where the policies are going. When I used to look at those issues of custody, of support, of visitation, I would always tell my clients that going back, the basic fundamental agreement that we need to have is that the best interest of the child has to always take place first.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to work in the realm of reality, which might not comport with the rules of the family court or the precedents of the family court. So we would look at the ideas of the notion of mediation as being one of the more effective tools for the parties to reach an agreement mutually that may extend or be more than the rules or laws in place.
Because one of the challenges is, you know, if you have an attorney that's a little bit rogue, he likes to, and the other party doesn't have one, you know, attorneys can be very threatening and use intimidation tactics against people who aren't really equipped to contend with those.
And that's true, and I've been there. I played that adversary at times, you know, and I think that's why you need two people to have the understanding that the interest of the child and the family needs to come first.
Mm-hmm. And you know, and being that parenting is a time-intensive activity, if we want parents to parent, which is, you know, parents need to have time to parent, because parenting by definition is a time-intensive activity. So, you know, in order for parents to be engaged in parenting, giving them time to parent and giving them the tools to be better parents. You know, if a parent is lacking good skills here and we want to strengthen his ability, you know, we've got resources available today, whether they're online or through parenting classes and such, and working in modes to help parents do a better job. I think that's what parents really want. They want support and they want help. They want help being a part of the educational process of their children, being engaged in the education of the children, because we all want our children to succeed and be successful. So can we work on legislation that says, look, we need you both in the game, and we need you working together. If we're going to have things like marijuana, Pono choices, and things that sort of feel like what they're doing is they're sort of disrupting us trying to parent our children, maybe we need to have some pushback in the other way, in the other direction. What do you think?
Well, I think there is policies under the Family Leave Act that allows an employee to take time off to attend to the needs of their spouse or their parent or a child. A similar policy should also maybe be considered for a parent or guardian to attend to some of the parent-teacher conferences or open houses, or these one-on-one opportunities with the school, with the teacher, with their student, and with their child, even during working hours. And I think that's something that we can work on as far as a policy. Because if it's true that it takes a village to raise a child, who believe that, then the village got to be able to allow people to take time off from work to attend to the important needs of their children at the schools with the teachers, you know, away from work. And we need to make that as a policy.
Yeah, I think so. I think that sounds like a great idea. And so what would you tell the governor at this point? What would you tell the governor about this bill? Or, you know, if he were to pass it, would you want to introduce legislation next year that maybe might modify it from a for-profit to a nonprofit? Is that plausible? What do you see as being a plausible solution at this point?
You know, I think at this point in time, he needs to understand that once he opens Pandora's box, there's no going back. So that's number one. Number two, he needs to understand that this is not his policy per se. This whole idea was started with the prior administration. So he doesn't have to adopt that. He can set his own priorities and establish his own policy. Number three, he needs to understand that there's going to be additional cost and human lives at stake should this measure become law. Those are the facts. And I think he needs to weigh all those in his very important and somber decision.
Okay. And is there anybody that you might suggest that he look to get more insight on this topic?
Well, I think he needs to look at the evidence that is out there. I would give Governor Hickenlooper a call from Colorado. He's a Democrat also. He's been involved in the...
That's a great idea, by the way. I like that.
He's involved in seeing medical marijuana dispensaries open. He's seen the recreational initiative. He's even signed into law recently a provision that may give back some of the proceeds from the recreational sales to the businesses and some of the residents, instead of going to schools, building new classrooms, helping law enforcement, and dealing with prevention and treatment of adolescent drug exposure. So the governor, Hickenlooper, might be a good person to speak to.
Yeah. Now, as far as the pros and the cons of this, if it were to become law, would you want to introduce any other measures next year that might help to mitigate some of the harm?
I think one of the things we need to do is to make sure that the current caregivers and patients and doctors involved in the current system are legitimate, are authentic, are genuine, and are really issuing certificates for legitimate purposes.
So there needs to be a structure of accountability, is what it
yeah,
sounds like you're
because
saying.
there is none right now. 90% of the certificates are issued by 10 doctors.
Oh.
None of them are neurologists.
Uh-huh.
None of them are pediatricians. None of them are cancer specialists. None of them deal with epileptic seizures. They're general practitioners or family doctors.
Do you feel like that they're sort of taking advantage of this situation?
Well, when you're prescribing a very potent psychoactive medicine, like medical marijuana, I think you would want to have some component of a doctor with a specialty also weighing in.
Maybe that's a good idea. Maybe there needs to be a special certification process for physicians that are issuing these certifications.
And I think there needs to be periodic checks on the caregivers. You know, right now, and it's a problem going on in Colorado right now for law enforcement, is that they can't distinguish between legitimate and illegitimate growers because there's no monitoring, registering, and sanctioning of those who are growing.
Oh, so we can set that up here, though. We can do it. We can do it before we actually get kicked off here.
We can do it.
Well, it was great to have you on the show, Marcus. Thank you so much. The time, 45 minutes goes by really fast, doesn't it? Yes, it does. I'm Chris Leatham, and this is The Economy and You. Thank you for watching today's show. We'll be back again next Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Look forward to seeing you then. Aloha.